is I just started recording on Screencastify this presentation, which is using your website as a marketing tool. Okay. So the powerful part of this is there's almost no one that can't benefit from that. You're an author, right? Okay. So you can literally load 4 or 5 pages of if you want to talk about, like a lot of authors give clinics on how to write, and you can load 4 or 5 pages of your book that you've written, and you can walk through your process right there online, and it embeds right down here at the bottom. When you see this recording, you're going to see my face down here. You can embed the video cam. You need your face on there. I know I'm very uncomfortable with it because I have a giant head. And so when people look at me, it's like all they see is like my head filling the whole screen. So it looks like I'm like this. But it's life. We are all what we are, right? I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. That's what I think. It's the rule. So using your website as a marketing tool. Now here's the stories that I promised. I told you I was going to tell you stories. I sat down with a guy, buddy of mine, who is just, we call people, this is not the right one. We call people like this guy monsters because he is just such a heavy hitter in the industry. And when he shows up, people listen. And I was talking about this presentation, using your website as a marketing tool. That's not it either. Okay, it's thinking. So if you're going to use your website as a marketing tool, what does that mean? That's exactly what he asked me. It's the first thing he said. And he goes like this. He goes, well, I suppose you could do that. And I took it as such a given that I immediately knew the problem. Does anybody know why he would have paused and thought about that? It's because of his definition of marketing. So that's where we're going to start today. How do you define marketing? I actually want to hear from a few of you. How do you define marketing? Anybody? Somebody has to have a definition of marketing. 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 What is marketing? No, I was looking at you.
Marketing is telling your story to the people who need to hear it.
That's a great definition, right back here.
Getting your business out to the public any type of way you can.
That's another great definition. Anybody else? Somebody else?
It's selling.
That's where I would draw. So there's a wide definition of marketing. Which one of y'all turn my flash on? Just kidding. There's a wide definition of marketing, but it stops at sales. That's the one thing everybody agrees on. The reason for that is sales is the transactional benefit and product of marketing. That's generally speaking how people differentiate sales and marketing. So, phone, come on. It's never this hard. Never. That's all I'm setting up for a presentation. So, one of you said telling your story, and another one of you said, there we go, getting your story out there. And it's fascinating because you both nailed it. That is it. That's all of marketing. All of marketing is defining and writing and crafting your story, and then the action and the actionableness, if you will, of getting your story out there. So marketing really comes down to the story and tools. Today we're talking about your website. Now, another reason that my buddy paused is because when he thinks of using a marketing tool, he's never thinking about your website. Because your website is a destination of all the tools that you have out in the world that send people to your website. So we are going to accept the definition that your website can be a marketing tool, and I'm going to show you how today, okay? So the first thing that she said is perfect. It's telling your story. So what is your story? Your story can't be that you sell stuff, right? That's not your story. Number one, the biggest reason is because that's what everybody says. What do? I sell widgets. No, you don't. What did we talk about last week? People don't buy. Come on, there's 4 or 5 of you from last week. People don't buy. What do they buy? They don't buy this, they buy that.
They buy a state of mind.
They don't buy things, they buy states. So the state of being in possession of a 60-inch TV. Just owning that high definition TV makes me feel a certain way. It's maybe a purchase that I've wanted for a long time. Maybe it's that I feel inadequate because I don't have one, and my buddy Fred next door does have one. And as you know, as primal and flawed as that sounds, you have to understand your customer base, and we all are human. Okay, I'm not saying that that is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing to trade on. What I'm telling you is that people feel this way, and if you ignore it, you're not going to get your story out there. Okay, so we started with definitions. We're going to talk about a framework here in a second too. We talked about how you define marketing. I really like this picture. Everybody recognize this, right? What is it? Coca-Cola. Why is that so significant?
Because even blurry and kind of messed up, we all still know.
Right, because of the brand. How many of you don't bring to mind an actual Coke, like in your hand, drinking a Coke, or a memory you have of drinking a Coke? Does everybody in here? Because I know I do. You know, my family, when I was growing up, unfortunately for my teeth, it was a big deal. Sodas were a big deal. We drank Big Red. Our face would be red by the end of a family get-together because we drank so much Big Red. It's got so much dye in it. You don't find that out till you quit drinking it, and years later you go back and drink it. It makes you sick because it's got so much red dye in it. But the point here is that they have told their story so well, and they know their customer, why their customer buys. You think about Coca-Cola commercials. They're never selling you, hey, here's a pile of sugar and some acid you should run over your teeth. It'll ruin your teeth and give you diabetes. Here, buy this. That's never what they're selling you. What are they selling you? Let's talk about that for a second.
It's refreshing. Good time. Yes.
That was it right there. That's what they always sell you. Refreshing, yes, cold, sweat beads and all that. But as time has marched on, we've all gotten a little bit smarter, or a lot smarter. They've stopped selling refreshing as much. It's more about stories. And even in their own marketing, I heard something that was fascinating. I watched an interview with their head of PR and marketing and stuff. And he said, look, we understand nobody needs to drink a lot of sugar. We want everybody to drink one soda a day. We want all of our customers to purchase one of our products a day. Now think about that. What he did is he put a positive spin on something extremely negative. You can't drink too much of this stuff, it'll kill you. So only drink one of these a day. But that's all he talked about. So even with that, they're telling their story in such a way, they're engaging with their customer base in such a way that their story is getting told, they're meshing, and here's the beauty of it, they're meshing with their customer's story. Their customer has a story. And when those are seamless, you got a home run. Okay, we're going to talk about a lot of these core ideas here a little bit later, what your core ideas are and how you mesh those up, because that really is what you're trying to do. Because at some point, your customer buys from you, and what does that mean? If all it means is you set up enough buttons to make them get to your page enough to make a purchase, then you've lost a lot of opportunity there. You've got a lot of opportunity that's not being gained there. Chipotle is a really great example of this. How many of you do like Chipotle? Anybody not like Chipotle? Tell me why, if you don't mind.
I'm really not into Mexican food.
Do what now?
I'm really not into Mexican food.
Okay. So it's a thing of like beans and rice and the whole burritos, that whole thing. Okay, but it's not like Chipotle.
No, it's not.
Okay, all right. So what's fascinating about Chipotle is several things. Number one is their proliferation. They were the first ones that really told the world you can be healthy and have a mass market, because their food is. That's why I eat it so much. Is because it's almost all naturally derived. A lot of it's local when they can do it, but their branding is so strong. Their branding is all about they'll not stock meat if it doesn't meet their demands, their standards. And they did this for a while. They were completely out of pork for a while. You probably heard about this because they found out the farmers weren't treating the pigs right. So they quit carrying pork. That's one of the 3 major meats they use. Think about dumping 1/3 of your customer experience and the risk that is. Why? Because it didn't fit their story. Any of you guys watch The Prophet? If you don't watch Profit, you need to start watching The Profit like yesterday. It's outstanding. It is outstanding. It's very entertaining also, but man, it is outstanding. Because he just hits principle, 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 principle. He says you have to have this to do this. And this, he knows markets inside and out. So he'll be like, in this market, like it was Pet Food Friday. So in pet food, you should be at this margin, and they're only at this margin. I think they were at 34%. They need to be at 39%. I'm supposed to kind of know what I'm talking about. And I was shocked that 4% will make that much difference. Because it's margin, it's not revenue. So 4% means after everything else is already paid. So it's actually about 1.5% of revenue. So you think on $10,000 of revenue, do you believe, and be honest about this, just viscerally, inside yourself, just snap decision, do you believe $100 out of 10,000 is going to make a difference for you? $100 out of 10,000? I don't believe that. I'll be honest with you. I don't believe that. So that makes me go, wow, I got to think about my thinking. $100 out of 10,000? So if I make $10,000 in total revenue next month, the following month I make $9,900, that's a huge difference. That's enough to be concerned? To me, it's not. He's saying it is.
Depends on if that trend keeps going.
Well, right, but he's not even talking about like a downward trend. He's talking about margins year over year. So the whole year, 4% difference makes a big difference. But that, again, that's margin. That's not top line revenue. So your top line revenue is the other 60%, right? 66% in this case. So the point here is the professionals, people who do this all the time, they know stuff we don't know. We can learn from these guys. But one of the things he talked about in there is your brand promise. Because one of the owners said, we're going to do this. He goes, okay, I want you to write that down. Write down your brand promise. Interesting fact that, to me, first thing that stood out is they hadn't already done that. Because which one of us does it? Which one of you in here has written down your brand promise? I haven't. And I've done more writing than probably half the people in this county. And I haven't written down a brand promise. Now, I've done some things around it, but I haven't said this is what my brand promise is. Because again, what was your marketing definition?
Telling your story and getting it to the right people.
So the basis of your story is your brand promise. That's a start. That's what we're talking about right here. Because their brand promise is present and functional in your life. In your life. Even messed up like that. Okay? So how do you define marketing? That was our first. Tools and tactics that deploy your value proposition. Now that's a word, that's a phrase I want you to really kind of grab onto. Because value proposition is everything. Whether you realize it or not, I have proposed several values to you already in this room today. Value proposition, I'm proposing that this value is worth X. Okay? And a really important concept to really kind of ingrain in all your thinking is that the first purchase that a customer makes happens long before they ever take money out of their wallet. The first purchase that they make from you is the first time they trust you enough to do something you ask them to do. I don't care if it's go to my website, fill out this form, make this call, take this class, whatever it is. You're here today because you trusted somebody in the back of this room enough to take the action to come here today. Okay? That was a purchase. That was a mental and conceptual purchase, okay? So marketing is, to go back to his definition back here, tools and tactics that deploy your value proposition, which is the core of your story, okay? Generally, most of us are going to have more than one value proposition, okay? Each product or service is going to have its own value proposition, but they're all stacked up here above your brand promise or your core value proposition, okay? Proposing that a product or service is worth more than the money in my pocket. It's a fundamental rule that we all have to face every day. My customer likes their money, and they like it to be in their pocket. I like my money. I like it to be in my pocket. It feels nice and warm. It's comforting. It makes me feel good. So for you to come to me and say, Kyle, today I've got this value proposition that is worth more than the sweat and blood and tears it took for you to get that money and put it in your pocket. I've got something that's worth more than that. That's what we're telling our customers every day, okay? Now, if your website's not telling people that, then you're failing. That's just that simple, okay? Because what most of us do is we live, last week we talked about the 5 steps of the sale. I'll go over them real fast. Greeting, rapport building, investigation, presentation, demonstration, and close. Greeting is, hi, how are you? This is me. This is what I'm about. Rapport building, investigation is, I like you. You like me. Most of my customers have X problem. If you're like my customer, you might feel this. This might be a solution. Solution is when presentation comes out. I present a possible solution to your problem. I demonstrate exactly how it works, how it's going to make you feel better, how it's going to make you a winner. Then close. Okay? 5 steps of the sale. Most of us live in greeting and rapport building, and that's where we kind of flake out because I'm afraid to ask for the sale. I don't like rejection. I like acceptance. I like friendliness and openness and warmth. And I'm afraid that if I be salesy, I don't want to be salesy. I always tell my customers to say that if you don't want to be salesy, just close your business, get rid of the DBA, because if you're not getting salesy, what are you doing? If you're not selling, right? We all got to sell, okay? So we live in greeting. We live a little bit in rapport building because that feels good. That's nice and warm. But the execution, the nitty-gritty execution and the rejection that comes with identifying my product or service, identifying problems that you have, and then proposing something that you might reject is scary. That scares me. Okay? I was talking to a sales trainer one time I'll never forget this. I was standing there holding my drink. He's standing here holding his drink. And we were talking about sales training. And I was talking about what I do with my customers. And he was talking about what he does with his sales teams. And he said, yeah, the biggest problem that I go into these Fortune 500 companies, and the biggest problem that they have, what do you think it is? Fear. They're afraid of the close. They're afraid to ask for the business. Why? Rejection. They're afraid to be rejected. That's what motivates us in not being more specific in our website material. You have to get website material on your website that asks for the close and politely ask them to leave if they're not going to buy. That's a function of a certain type of page on your website. And you can't fear that. That's a very valuable tool. If you can get someone to say no to you, you've learned something. You took them down a path and then they said no. So you didn't do your job in finding out if they were the right customer for you, or they went down the path essentially telling you they were the right customer and they weren't. Okay? An answer to a proposed sale is very important. Okay? So this is a very important question. How do you define your website? How many of you do not have a website right now? Okay, 2 or 3 of you. If you did, think about what you want it to do, how you define it. So it's important to have an answer. I don't care what the answer is. There's no wrong answer here. I love when people do that, and then you say this, and they go, oh, no, that's not right. You said there wasn't a wrong answer. You're wrong. While y'all are doing that, I'm going to walk back here and get water. How do you define your website? I got 2 waters. They're little ones. The advent of the small Coca-Cola really, it showed me there was a different market than me. I'm always trying to get the bigger one. They came out with these little tiny 8-ounce ones. I'm like, people actually buy those. Fascinating. So somebody talk to me. How do you define your website?
Okay, so for mine, I said a place where people can learn how their donations make a difference in people's lives with a nonprofit.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I'll go with
Yes.
I didn't finish, I'm sorry, but I put my Viva website as part of almost like the sales and support team that's working 24/7, educating the users about the service that we provided, making sure they're always able to buy without having to call, making seamless transactions, and then kind of against any type of support that they need or frequently asked questions, kind of use them needing to call us. Everything's right there with self-service.
Perfect. That's good. Somebody else. Come on, somebody else had to write something. Nobody? My participation rate is low, Steve.
A place online that speak for my business. Without anyone being there, like she said.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's actually a really good. I mean, all these are good. I'm not valuing one over the other. I'm not there. Like I said, there's no wrong answer. The exercise, the importance of the exercise, I'm going to tell you in a second. But that actually is a very important point as an anchor point for everything you do. So if you're on Twitter, what are you talking about on Twitter? Somebody on Twitter? Anybody? What are you talking about on Twitter?
Personally or professionally?
I don't care.
Well, professionally, I talk about what's going on in the market.
Okay.
What's going on,
So informative, educational.
try
what-
to share information, try to connect with other people in the same space.
Do you mirror that on your website?
Yes.
It's good. What do you do on your website that mirrors that?
Well, we just launched our website, but I
Okay.
feel like it's informative and
But does it tell me current stuff that's going on in the marketplace?
not yet.
So blogging would be a great backup for that.
Yeah.
And an easy thing to do is blogging. How many of you struggle with blogging? I'm a blogger and I struggle with blogging. So all of you should raise your hand.
Creating it or struggle in
You name it.
sitting down and getting it done?
All of it. If it doesn't, if there's not blogs regularly appearing on your website, you struggle with blogging. Okay. So a really easy thing to do is to go tweet all the time and just be like really intentional about the subject matter in your tweets. Then just go grab 5 of your tweets, post those lines, and then write 100 words about each one of those lines. Done. You have a blog post. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare. There's very few blog posts that are actually breaking any ground. That's a sad truth of blogging. What you have to understand that blogging is, it is not, I am standing on top of the mountain, planting my flag, bravely facing into the wind, facing west into the sunset. That's not blogging. Blogging is the support of the ideas you've already been putting out there, okay? It's a fleshing out of ideas. I'll give you a really great example of this. I'm writing for a company that one of my clients, I have basically a sales relationship. I'm doing all the website marketing, and I get a piece of anything that comes through the website, okay? So one of the things he does is this really cool floor tile that looks like wood. So does anybody know the problem with wood floors? Where we got it today, water. It's the biggest problem with wood floors. You can't really use them in the kitchen because if you have a spill or your teenager dumps a gallon of water and doesn't clean it up and you're out of town for 2 days and you come back and that part of your floor looks like, it had a little pregnant. So that's why you can't really use wood floors in the kitchen. But this tile looks like wood, but it's tile. So you get the beauty of the wood floor with tile. So I'm writing a series of blog posts educating people about that because I didn't know it existed. So you see how that works? So I'm going to tweet, did you know that there's a tile that looks just like wood? 5 things you didn't know about X tile, the brand name. 5 ways you can have wood in your kitchen without having to worry about it getting ruined by water. Parentheses. 5 unknown tips, something like that. Something that arouses curiosity. Now, at the end of a certain period of time, I can take all those tweets and drop them onto a page on my WordPress site. One of the things we're going to do after we break is I'm going to go into some live stuff on WordPress and how to use it. And why I tell everybody. I had a funny, I think it's funny, slide on one of my presentations. 5 website platforms you should use. Number 1 was WordPress. Number 2 was WordPress. Number 3 is WordPress. Did you know that Google is de-indexing Wix? Did you hear about that? Because they don't stack up very well. So this is just an aside. Don't use anything but WordPress. Use WordPress. WordPress all the way. Get your own domain, mydomain.com, not wordpress.org.com/mytires or whatever it is I'm selling. Get your own domain, okay? So, forgot how I got there. Wood floors. I'm telling the story in tweets, so it becomes, so my core value proposition for this company is we make your home better. Because why? Why isn't it that we lay floors? Why isn't it that we make your floors better?
Because that's just a thing.
It's a function of my home is better. It's safer for my family. Less allergens for my pets and my kids. Easier to clean up. Better ROI. Think about you sell your house, somebody comes in, oh, I love your wood floors. Oh, guess what? These aren't wood floors, these are tile floors. I got them for about the same price, and you're not gonna have to replace them in 10 years because the life of this tile is like 25. ROI, right? So these are all things, what does all that do? Makes their life better, makes their life easier, makes them feel more comfortable, providing for their family, all these things. But it's not, this tile's made out of porcelain and, it doesn't break. It's not that. It's make your life better. That's the core value proposition. All those other things support it. So then I'm going out to Twitter. I'm talking about both the function and the form of how it does make their life better. Then I'm going to push back to the blog post that's on my website. Why? Because I control that content. I control that content. Some people have had the horrifying experience. Probably a couple of years ago, you remember this. They had a big storm in the Midwest. They lightning struck a server farm and took down a bunch of Amazon servers. Now that doesn't seem like it affects you, except that people don't realize Amazon hosts most of the internet. Amazon went into the server business, I think, about 10 years ago. And so people found out that where they were storing things on the cloud was just somebody else's computer. That's all the cloud is. There's no cloud. I mean, there's clouds. We're getting range. Those are clouds. This is just somebody else's computer. Just think of your buddy Harold and you're storing stuff on his computer. That's the cloud. So the point here is, if you have something on your own website, you own that. You're not putting it on somebody else's property like Facebook or Twitter. You're pointing people from those exposure sites back to your website. Once I get them back to my website, I can get them back into my funnel. Okay? So here's the next question that's really powerfully important. You should never quit asking and answering these two questions. How do you define your website? How does your customer define your website? I had a fascinating discussion that really underscores this heavily. I gave a presentation on Instagram about 3 weeks ago. It was actually the first thing I did for SCORE. And so we had a discussion about Instagram. You can do ABC. This is how you do it. Here's tips and tricks. Here's the exposure rules. This is what not to do, all that good stuff. Guy from the back of the room says, that's what I need. This is what I've been needing. I need to call you. We set up the call. I did the little pre-work, looked at his website. It's horrible. I mean, not it's a little bit bad, really bad. And so I emailed him and I said, look, I don't even think it's worth a call. You've got I just went through like 15 problems. You need to fix all this stuff before social media is even a fix for you, even a possibility. Because people are going to go to your website, they're going to experience this. Now, what was fascinating, he says, I want to go ahead and do the call. What was fascinating is that him and his partner told me over and over and over again, that's not the function of the website. The function of the website is not to do what you're talking about. It's to do this thing over here. This is why we created it, and this is the way it's working and why it's working. And I said, well, your customer's going to do ABC. Well, yeah, but that's not the function of the website. You're not supposed to do this on it. You're supposed to do this. And what I finally got across to them was, what you think about your website only matters so far. It really should be like a 30-70 division. And you should be thinking about what your customer thinks about it. When your customer goes on that website, what do they think? And like I said last week, you better be looking at mobile, because mobile's over half of all search traffic now. And Google changed the rules this year to where they will de-index your mobile rankings. They separate your mobile and your desktop rankings. So if your website is not mobile friendly, what's going to happen is you go to mobile, you got 0. You might be number 4 on page 1 on desktop, but when you go over to mobile, you're nobody. You're nothing.
So if you optimize your SEO with your desktop version,
Mhm.
will that translate into your mobile version automatically now?
Well, the optimization goes to whatever shows up on mobile, but it doesn't make your website mobile friendly at all. The SEO has nothing to do with mobile friendly. Mobile friendly is all.
Right, but I'm saying if you make your website mobile friendly.
Oh, the SEO does,
you can
yes.
Carry over the SEO.
Generally speaking, that is true. As we go forward, that is going to be less and less true. It's going to be all about what engages people on your website, because Google, for a long time, has been about user flow, okay? So SEO, whatever, if people go to your website and leave it all the time, even if you had good rankings, you're going to get deranked, okay? So user flow is going to be even more important on mobile because you have a smaller screen.
What's SEO?
Search engine optimization. So it's the act of arranging your page both from a user interface level and a code level that you don't see for search engines, so that it's easy for search engines to understand. Okay? That's what SEO is. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. I thought it was a fast question. I was like, I have a question. No, I'm done. No question. All right, so there's a guy named Ray Edwards. He's a really famous copywriter, and he was talking about the fact that he worked at a radio station as a copywriter, and they had avatars for all of their customers. They had several specific customers, and each one of them had an avatar. Does anybody not understand what an avatar is in this case? It is not the James Cameron movie. They're not people like with alien faces and stuff. Isn't it amazing that we, have all these alien movies, but they all are like quadrupeds like us?
That's true.
It's amazing. They're just taller or shorter, bigger heads, smaller heads, smarter, dumber. They never have dumb aliens though. They never have aliens that fly all the way across the world and are like, man, we really like this water thing you guys have got going. We don't have any of this, or this science thing you got, man, this is awesome. Internal combustion engine, let's take that back. They're always advanced. They're always smarter than us.
So what's
An avatar, that's a great question. Not an alien. That's to start with. An avatar is a representation. So online avatars have been around for a while in that it would be like a little, almost like an icon that you would use in forums or whatever. But in this case, it's a representation. Think of it like a hologram. And it's a composite of all of your customers, what the center of how they think is. And they had a name for her. Her name was Carol. And they would ask in sales meetings and copywriting meetings, would Carol like this? Is this going to bother Carol? Is this going to be too far? Are we asking the wrong questions to Carol? That's exactly how you should think of your customers. Like a cardboard cutout, a persona building, a lot of companies call it. So that you think of them like a person instead of more like a faceless mass of humanity. Because it's easy to think of them like that because we don't have an individual. But once you, a great phraseology to use to build out this process is to go, if you're like a lot of my customers, you believe or you fear or you feel. Now, if you don't automatically know, like right now when I said that, something should have sprung in your mind. And if it doesn't, you got a problem. You need to work on that. This is where you need to spend time right here. Is what does your customer think of your website? It's really what does your customer think of your value proposition, because that's what your website should be, is an extrapolation, an execution of your value proposition. On every single page, there's some representation of an execution of your value proposition. Okay? All right. So this gap could tell you everything. The gap between what you believe your website is and what your customer believes your website is, you should be closing it, number one. You need to be moving over to what they think about it, okay? Split testing is big. Once you have a lot of traffic, you can start split testing. Don't split test before you have traffic. It's useless waste of time and money. It's going to cost you money to split test. The idea of split testing is there are companies out there who will take one page of your website and they'll change things on it, and they will cause these 2 pages to be shown to website viewers on your website at equal amounts, but alternatively. Does that make sense? So 100,000 people that visit your website, 50,000 are going to see this page, 50,000 are going to see this page. Then they're going to give you an outcome. This page was better because this. It might be just that, the buttons were purple. That might be all it is. It rarely is, but that might be all it is. I mean, literally, it really does sometimes come down to that. There are certain buttons and colors on websites that are going to convert better, okay? Let's go through a few list of 5. 5 things you want your site to do. Inform, sell, define into baskets. That's a big one. Tell your story. Define what makes you unique. This is simply an exercise. The reason I asked you what you think of your website, and I said there's no wrong answer, is because it's really about letting your own thoughts breathe. When I was watching The Prophet the other night, a very interesting process was happening that they never really talked about. I'm sure he knew it was happening, but he never talked about it. And it's this, that it's very difficult to face our own thoughts. I was talking to a friend of mine a few months ago, and we were talking about a certain thing that kept coming up in her life. And I said, you understand that if you keep doing this, that means you believe X. No, I don't believe that. Well, you keep walking in the rain without an umbrella. So that means you believe that you're going to be fine. You either believe that you're going to be fine walking in the rain without an umbrella and being exposed to the elements, or you don't have a healthy image of yourself and you kind of want to hurt yourself. You believe one of those 2 things, okay? in America in this. I'm taking cultural, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? So the execution, the outflow of your ideas on paper is what you believe. Don't fear that. Don't run from that. If you really don't believe social media has any value and you have not based that on anything, that's going to come out in what you write and how you do. If you're not going to go out and get on Twitter, and you're not going to get on Instagram, you're not going to get on Facebook and get into Facebook groups and do all the stuff we talked about last week, if you're not going to do those things, you do not believe they're valuable. You cannot, on one hand, say, I believe these things are valuable, and then not invest in them, because you don't do anything else that way. You don't go, I don't think food is good, and then I'm going to Golden Corral because I can get the most food for the least money. Those two beliefs, see, they can't live side by side. So what was interesting on this show is her pet had died, and she believed her pet had died because the pet food company had used ingredients that were not healthy for the pet. Okay, she believed that. It was never anything they tried to substantiate on the show. They just made a point of saying she believes this happened. Okay, so that informed everything she did in her business. She's going to use organic, all natural, no fillers, no this or that. She had all kinds of ingredients she wasn't going to use. Even packaging, they can't even be packaged in a facility that also packages these things. If any of you have peanut allergy, nut allergy, really? How many people? 8, 6, 12. We have 16 people in this room, and nobody has a peanut allergy. That's fascinating. I just feel like half of America has some kind of allergy. But if you have a peanut allergy, you know how big a deal it is. You can't eat something that has been packaged in a facility if it's severe enough. There's a lady in our church like this. Her kid has a peanut allergy. So that's how she was looking at this. Now, remember the brand promise, right? If you haven't written that down, you should. Brand promise. You need to think about that. He asked her to write her brand promise down because he immediately recognized there was a disparity, a contradiction that was in evidence. The contradiction was she said that her brand promise and idea was, we're only going to provide these kind of products, and we're only going to use companies that provide these, or brands that provide these products, and this way, naturally, and all this stuff, right? But then he knew the market well enough, and he's a smart enough guy that walking through our store, he knew a bunch of these brands were absent, that were very well-known brands, very well-vetted, had great reputations. They weren't in the room. So then you start asking, well, why aren't these here? Well, one time they used to produce this way. Well, this thing over here, they used to do this thing, and I didn't like that. Well, they had this occurrence, and they have these recalls. And he goes, what kind of car do you drive? A GMC, whatever. Well, so GM had 400,000 recalls in the last couple of years. They got sued by the government. They had to pay $100 million to the government. Why are you still driving a GM? So you see what he's asking her is he's asking her to state her belief, right? But she kept denying that she believed that. Okay? Why am I harping on this? Why have I spent so much time on it? Because the exposure of your thoughts to the light of day is a powerfully important concept and component in your marketing. Because if you have these little beliefs down there, like I said about the social media, that's going to severely hamper your ability. Now, what you have to believe is there is a social media channel that is good for my business, that will work for my business. That is almost universally true. You have to pursue it on that. So when one doesn't work, you don't say social media is not going to work for me. You say something else is wrong. If this didn't work, something else is wrong and I need to find it. It's like saying I can't. Instead of saying I can't, because your brain essentially ties that thought off and goes, okay, we're done with that. We're never going to touch that again. Say, I haven't learned how to do this yet. That puts your brain automatically on the path of going and finding a solution. I have not figured out yet the outlet on social media that's going to work for my business. That's how you say that. All right. List of 5. This displays 2 slides at once, and so it was displaying the other one, and I thought it was already up here, so we're going to go over this again. Inform, sell, define into baskets, tell your story, and define what makes you unique. You'll notice a lot of these overlap, right? Inform, okay. Tell your story, that's kind of informing. Define what makes you unique, that's also informing. But they're slightly different. They're different enough that you need to think about them differently. And listen, folks, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just something to get you started. should write down and number the different things you want your website to do, because in the next iteration of this, when you get a little bit better at this, the next thing is to go, what do I want each page to do? What do I want this web page to do? What do I want my customer to do on this page, right? That's how you want to be thinking. Let's go to the next one. What 5 things your prospect wants? Educate. What don't I know? Who's made a major purchase in the last 2 years? 5,000 or more. Anybody? Car, TV, yeah. What was
I bought a rug.
a rug? Okay, tell me about the rug.
I researched, probably took me a whole month. I probably Googled every website that I could find, and I also checked out retail stores. I found I could get a better deal for the amount of money I wanted to spend, so I found the website, and then I got the beautiful rug that I've always dreamed of.
So is this the first type of rug of this type that you had bought? Okay, great. This is a perfect example, because it's about what don't I know. The higher your purchase ticket is for your service or product, the higher the mountain that your customer is going to be willing to climb to learn more about what you are selling. If I'm buying a $2, I don't know, lollipop. I don't know lollipop market, so I don't know how big a $2 lollipop is. But if I'm buying something for $2, how much investigation am I going to do? Just enough to know I'm not going to die. That's all I need. I'm not going to die immediately by buying this thing, right? Now, when I bought my $2,000 TV 3 years ago, it was the first time I'd ever spent that kind of money on a television. And it was something I had built up it was a reward, basically. I had my own sales contest and I won. And so, yes, I rewarded myself. No, I had to reach numbers to get it. So when I bought that, man, I got to know inside and out. My cousin had bought one a couple years before. I'm calling him going, what don't I know about this process? Well, you need to do ABC. She bought this rug. What don't I know about this rug? How bad is this going to hurt if I make the wrong decision? Let's see if I can move out of your way a little bit. I did this last week too, got in the way. It's hard for me to always be out of the way. I'm usually in the way somewhere. Give me all the info. Show me where to go. Help me make a good decision. Show me others like me you've helped. This last one's big. It's called social proof. We covered this last week, but I'm going to say it again. This is my definition of the social proof value chain. I have a problem. He had the same problem I have. He went to her and got the solution that I want. I can get the same solution he got by going to her. Now, that may sound like a 5-year-old is doing it, but that's literally the process we all go through. And guess what? That's the reason the review market has exploded. That's what built Yelp. That's what has built Amazon. There's a site called Houzz, Houzz. Yeah, and you know it. They have exploded on the scene because what they're doing better than anybody else has done, even Angie's List, is they are expressing reviews. Now, I'm going to tell you a very gross version of expressing, because it's really what you need to think, how you need to think of expressing. Expressing is not I'm on a stage doing interpretive dance. It is popping a pimple in a good way. If you go to a doctor's office and say, I want to express something, they're going to look at you a little bit differently than if you went to a play and said you wanted to express something. The reason it's important is because expressing is squeezing everything you can out of it. Okay? It's to get it all out there. And what Houzz has done that nobody else has done is completely give a contractor the ability to lay out everything they do in pictures, all their testimonials, all the stories of what they did. Now, nobody's using it right. I'm helping my guy use it right, because like my guy, he's got these beautiful pictures and he calls them 1504 Stanton. And there's no separation between 1504 and Stanton. It's just all one word. I said, what is 1504 Stanton? That's the address. Are you selling addresses? No. What are you selling? You're selling kitchen cabinets. You're selling granite countertops. You're selling renovated bathrooms. You're selling a better shower experience. But none of those words are present. Okay? So my point is, that's how you exploit a market. That's really not what we're talking about today, but that's an exploitation opportunity of going, okay, these guys are doing this well. I'm going to do it better. That's what Google is. Google is, these guys are out here with these search engines, and kind of sometimes you can find what you want. And I mean, how many of you remember Alta Vista? Yeah. Remember Dogpile? Dogpile is actually still around, but Dogpile existed because they would take the best of 10 different search engines and pile them all into one spot. Because that's how much work you had to do to try to find what you were looking for. That's how bad it used to be. Google has expressed it. They've fully executed on an idea, okay? So show me what others like you, show me others like you, like me, that you've helped. So tell me the story. Give me a social proof value chain. Framework we're going to be talking about, especially when we get into the website stuff that I'm going to show you, is since I understand X, I'm going to do Y, okay? Since I understand that I will die if I don't eat, I'm going to eat food. In this case, since I understand my customer's not going to buy without validation of my concept, I'm going to have a page that validates my concept. Since I understand that what Kyle just said, that Kyle is very smart and handsome and used to be a lumberjack, he just said, come on, that was worth one laugh. I got nothing. Since he just told me the social proof value chain has merit, then I will, since I understand that that is true, then I'm going to use the social proof value chain on my website by putting testimonials on my website. We talked last week about LinkedIn, and the easiest thing in the world to do is to go get recommendations on LinkedIn, get them as detailed as possible, and then take that and put it on your website. It's the easiest thing in the world to do because LinkedIn already has a framework to do it, okay? You should do that like yesterday, all right?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What about LinkedIn?
LinkedIn?
I know, but how does that?
No, I'm just trying to say what you're asking. How does LinkedIn help your website?
Yeah.
Well, what you do, you familiar with the recommendations on LinkedIn?
On individuals, right? On your professional.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you have a website, you can get recommendations on LinkedIn for what you do on your website. Unless you've built a website that has nothing to do with what you are on LinkedIn. Yeah. So like for me, it's my personal profile on LinkedIn, but my recommendations are for online marketing, for sales process help, for sales training, sales coaching, social media training, okay? These are all recommendations. Now take that. Kyle's awesome at social media training. Bam, I'll put it on my website on my social media training page.
So it's kind of like having a lot of likes from Facebook?
No. A recommendation, it's not the endorsements.
Okay.
Now, this isn't endorsements. This is, well, we'll just, since you asked to see my recommendations, I'll show them to you.
But it goes back to the whole, the social proof value chain. I'm looking for a tax guy. I go to somebody who else who just started a new business, who found a tax guy that she really liked. I'm gonna trust her recommendation. So if I'm looking for a business and you tell me somebody has written, she's fantastic at working with nonprofits, and I see that, especially looking on your LinkedIn, you put that on your website, that's gonna make me give me more affinity to want to use it because you've got this recommendation.
You can do this without LinkedIn, but the thing is, LinkedIn, you can go to any one of your contacts in LinkedIn and you can directly ask for a recommendation. Most of us don't. I don't know if any of you, I don't have any other tool that does that. Do you? Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So you see this recommendation right here. What she said about me, actually I don't have that one on my website
Yeah,
yet.
So I guess where I was hung up is, if I have a website that's not about individuals, it's about a product, then LinkedIn probably won't help as much, because LinkedIn is very much recommendation on individuals, right?
Say it again. I'm missing something.
Isn't LinkedIn
No, forget about that. What did you say before that?
I said, if your website
Uh-huh.
is about a product, not about a person,
Okay.
then LinkedIn recommendation is on individuals. That
Well, it's on what you do. So if what you do on your website
on
is
that person's past experience, right?
what person?
Your
The
LinkedIn profile.
founder, or
Let me say it like this. Because I can't tell if we're talking about the same thing. What product are you talking about?
like if I'm just doing a shuttling service, for example.
Great, shuttling service. What's your name? Pardon me.
Mention,
Mei Ching? Okay. Mei Ching's shuttle service. And I have a website for Mei Ching's shuttle service. I'm pretending I'm Mei Ching. I know we don't look alike, but I'm pretending. I'm Mei Ching's shuttle service on LinkedIn. Okay, I'm Mei Ching. I own Mei Ching's shuttle service. Now, this is not a professional page on LinkedIn. This is an individual page on LinkedIn. I want the customers that I want to repeat the most often. If I could clone, like I asked this question last week, if I could clone one customer 1,000 times and have that same customer come and buy from me over and over again, who would it be? That's a really important mental exercise for all of us to go through all the time. Am I replicating my best customer? I'm going to find my best customer. Let's say it's a conference or a large company in town that frequently has more than one person at the airport. They're going to buy from me multiple days a week, multiple people per trip. That's a great fit for me because it's going to fill my bus, shuttle, luxury limo, whatever it is. It's going to fill it more per trip. I'm going to make more money per trip. That's going to be great. So I'm going to go, Bob from big company in Austin. Would you give me a recommendation? I've been working for you for 6 months, on-time delivery, all the other good things that I promised. I've done everything I said. Will you give me a recommendation? Mei Ching shuttle service is outstanding. It's something I would highly recommend to anybody. We've been using it. We use it about 20 times a week because of ABC. This is the story. You just take that and copy and paste it, put it on your website. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably send it to Yelp, right? If you have a great review like that.
Yeah, but Yelp has a lot of, you can't request a review on Yelp. You can request a review on LinkedIn. That's the difference. You got a question first.
Well, I was just gonna kind of bridge what I think might be the gap
Bridge away.
here. Because it sounds like what she was saying, but I have my personal profile.
Exactly,
on
I probably
LinkedIn,
won't even put
but my
my name on my
business is something else. So like in my case, my personal profile, I used to be a school teacher, I worked with vendors, I worked with school districts.
Exactly.
But now I have a consulting business where my
Exactly.
customers are going to be school districts.
That's right.
I'm gonna pull one of my recommendations says, Patricia Powell is fantastic with school districts, she worked great with our scaling
That's
up,
it.
and put that on my
Right.
That's
professional
it.
page, because those two tie together. This personal recommendation ties to the work that I do.
Right.
Right.
That's it.
I think there's also another opportunity to really showcase your character.
Mm.
Because businesses aren't things, they're people, they're run by people,
Sure.
CEOs and what have you. So in your case, I know you, we've done other things together, so you asked me to write a recommendation, so I might say something like, Mei Ching is a woman of character, she always keeps her promises, she's on time. Now that could be about anything, it could be about you and I doing something on the side, but those qualities is something I would look for if I'm looking to use a shuttle service. So I see it as an opportunity to really showcase the character behind the business.
It is. You're exactly right about that. But the problem that you run into is people gravitate towards those kind of definitions. And if I say, if I ask every one of you, and I wasn't talking about this, I ask all of you to give me a recommendation, you would say, Kyle's a great guy. He does this. I really enjoyed it. Or I enjoyed the speech. The problem with that is there's no keywords in it. There's no execution. There's no this is what he did for me. So what I do is I ask for recommendation and I say, Mei Ching, I would like a recommendation on my presentation I did last week. And if you don't mind, I would like you to start it like this. I attended Kyle's presentation on using your website as a marketing tool, and then whatever you want to say. What that does is it guarantees that thing that I want to resell essentially to other people. Again, I'm stamping the same customer over and over again, and I want to talk to that person out there who's going to hire me to come in and speak to them because that's the business I'm trying to build. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm not saying that you're wrong because you're not. You're exactly right. But what I'm saying is that those recommendations, everybody gives those. So if you ask for 100, probably 70 are going to be those. Even if you ask for the specific thing, they're still going to go that way.
So as far as recommendation, you wanted to sell your product instead of yourself as a person. Like,
I wanted to tell the
hey,
story of the
I'm
product I
selling my
sold.
product And this person has a good attitude. This,
Sure.
this.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, his product was good, but his attitude was.
Exactly.
No.
Right. But yeah, you're right. You're definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, but people are busy.
Yeah.
And I'm
Cool.
talking about LinkedIn. Okay?
Sure.
People are busy. You know what you want.
Mhm.
And you can even say, can you say a couple of words? Can you go as far as to draft some kind of
I wouldn't.
something?
I wouldn't.
Say, hey,
Here's the deal. So let's talk about what you get and what you can lose. What you can get and what you can lose. What you can get is a perfect recommendation. Now, what does that get you? So on my website, I've got recommendations that's exactly the way I want to write it. So if I have one, how many of those can I get? Can I get all of them? No. Everybody's not going to do that. Now, here's what I can lose. There's people probably in this room that if I ask you to do that, would get turned off by that. People are just like that. Some people, especially people that are really like loyalty and super truth driven, all of us would like to say that we're all super loyalty and truth driven, but that's just not true. There's certain personalities. My buddy, I play at my church, and we were at worship practice last night, and he's like, man, if people don't do this, this, and this, I'm not playing with them. They don't even know that he's upset. They have no idea, and he's never going to tell them. He's the kind of personality that you can offend him, and you'll never know it. You've lost his business, and you never know it. Those kind of people will go, I'm not really comfortable with that, but I'll do this, and then they'll never talk to you again. So what you can possibly lose by that, what you want to say, when you want to mean this, you should mean this. But what you want to say is, I want to hear from you. I'm not even asking you for a good recommendation. What I would like to talk about is specifically where we engaged. We engaged on this service or product. And if you're not willing, it's totally cool. And give them permission to back out of it. If you want to use your own words and not use any of mine, that's fine. But I would like it to say, I hired Kyle for X service and then whatever you would like to say about it. Because what that does is now the other side of this. So if you think about the perfect recommendation, like if you wrote it and said, are you okay with this? Now I have done that with a couple people, caveat here, that we all say we're busy. These people are busy on a level that none of us understand, okay? They literally get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they're sitting at a desk till 7 o'clock at night, 4 days a week, only because they physically will die if they work 5. And when they're not at work, they don't touch anything. I've got a guy, I've been trying to get him on Facebook. I've actually been trying to get him on LinkedIn 5 years to go get a LinkedIn account. I even said, I will set it up for you. Just send me the information. I'll go set up your account for you just so he can give me a recommendation because he's my best customer. And he's too busy. He literally is too busy. So there's busy, then there's like crazy, okay? So but for everybody else, generally they're going to write you a recommendation. But the point here is that this is how we've gone on a whole different track here, but it's a really important thing. You always have to weigh what it is that you're trying to get, the end result that you want to have happen, against what you have to give up for that and the possibility of how people are going to take it. I am big and loud. I talk a lot. There's certain kind of people that just don't like that. They just don't. So when I'm networking, I have to be really careful not to just get on a roll and just start talking, because there's certain people in the room I'm going to turn off. I'm never going to know it. They are never going to tell me, and they'll never talk to me again. That's just, I know that about myself. I've learned that through painful experience. So I say all that to say, be aware of your brand. Really great question is, what are the top 5 fears that people have with your brand, with your execution, what it is that you buy, what your product or service that you sell. Because other people that you have no control over gave your prospect a bad experience. You can't fix it. You can't change it. You got to just roll with it. It's a great opportunity, though. It's a powerful opportunity, and here's how. And this goes back to what we're actually talking about. I know, I'm talking on my website right now. If you're like a lot of my customers, you bought SEO before and you've gotten burned. Because that's true. SEO people are just about as bad as car salesmen. It might be worse because there's more of us. Here's what I promise, ABC. Here's what I'm not going to do, DEF. I'm not going to promise you these things. Because guess what? Google says don't do business with anybody that promises you those things. But most people don't know that. Like promising page 1 rankings. If anybody ever promises you a page 1 ranking, you don't do business with them because you can't promise that. Google is in control of that, not you. Okay? So I'm going to say these things. What does that do? Where are we? Back on our fancy slide presentation. Going back a couple of slides here. Slides. I just realized this is kind of an electric slide. What don't I know? Give me all the info. Show me where to go. Help me make a good decision. Show me others like me that you've helped. What was I just talking about? This is what I'm not going to do. I'm not like all those other people that you've had a bad experience with, right? people have pains, and unless you sell something brand new that's never been on the market and they've never bought it before and they don't know anybody who's bought it, they're going to know somebody that has had a bad experience. So you should understand the top 5 fears that people have with buying your product or service. Talked about this. Since I understand that the narrower, this is missing a couple of words, I apologize. The narrower the page is in the position on the funnel, how many of you do not know what a sales funnel is? You're not familiar with it. Okay, sales funnel, you know what a funnel is, except young people don't have to use funnels anymore because they finally made the oil receptacles big enough to actually pour oil in. A funnel is shaped like this. It's made to pour some type of liquid into a smaller opening. That's what it is. The reason we call it a sales funnel is because you have greeting, wide point of the funnel. It's where you talk to everybody. You're not going to sell all these people. You're not even going to sell half of these people. You're not even going to sell half of half. The likelihood is you're going to sell 4% if you do a really good job. 4 out of 100 is what good cold conversion is 4 out of 100. Okay? Cold conversion means these are people you're talking to that you've never talked to before and are not aware of you, your brand. They don't even know if they have your problem yet. Okay? Wide point of the funnel. Next step is, I'm going to take the next step. I might be in the right place. Third step of the funnel, presentation. You remember we went through this. Greeting, rapport building, investigation, presentation, demonstration, close. Presentation happens. Solution comes out. This might fix your life. This might be the solution to what you were looking for. Okay? That's presentation. Now I demonstrate. Now, if they've taken the 4th step with me, the likelihood is that they're going to buy. The closing rate at this point is more like 80% if you've done your job right. So we went from 4% to 80%. Why? Why do we go from 4% to 80%? It's straightforward logic. Well, what does that mean in regard to how many people I'm talking to? Am I talking to more or am I talking to fewer?
I'm talking to fewer with specific.
I'm talking to fewer, period. Everybody else is gone.
Yeah, because by the time we get into the end,
They have self-identified. Self-identification is huge. You need to help people self-identify on your website. I have this problem. If you're like lots of my customers, you feel this. Yes, I feel this way. It's like the Ron White joke. If you ever listen to Ron White said he saw Robert Tilton on the TV, and he said, "Do you feel lonely?" Yes. Are you sitting in a beanbag eating Cheetos in the middle of the night? Yes. How did you know this? Do you feel the Lord telling you to give me $10,000? Man, that was close. I almost thought he was talking about me. So the point is, it's a painful thing to say this because we feel, again, you get back to the fear of rejection, right? But if you're doing your job right, you're telling people to leave. Does that make sense? Does that not make sense to anybody? I'm telling people, if you're like most of my customers, you feel X. I don't feel that. Peace. Bye. Nicely. You're not going to find much. I mean, if you don't own a house, why are you on this website about installing granite countertops in your house? If you're like a lot of my customers, you have kids, they beat up your countertops, they lower the resale value in your house, they spill stuff. Formica countertops like these are made with particle board that swells when water gets a hold of it. Man, if you've ever had that problem, you just bing, 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 recited to yourself every bad experience you've had. Particle board, as it gets older, when it starts to swell, it actually flakes out, and the flakes of particle board and formaldehyde gets into your food. That's a serious problem. It really, literally is a big, serious problem. Older countertops. So a lot of my customers, instead of just putting another Formica top, they're going to opt to go with granite countertops, understanding that they've moved from a temporary solution to a permanent solution. As long as this house exists, unless they drop a cannonball on this cabinet, this countertop's going to stay in place. And they understand that they've increased the resale value of their house by X thousands of dollars. Now I can recite these because Realtor.com's got the numbers. Okay? So if they're an apartment dweller and they're on a granite countertop site, either they're thinking of buying a house at some point or they just like looking at granite countertops. I can't do anything about that. But if they have happened on my site and they're thinking about countertops and they're looking for budget, I've already talked about investment, haven't I? If you heard that, you heard more money. They understand the investment in their long-term value of their house is higher, right? So what I'm doing there is I'm causing the customer to either self-identify, put themselves in the basket, or they're bailing. Self-identity is a huge, huge, huge thing. Getting the customer to take a step that causes them to identify to themselves. I've been in sales a long time, and one of the most, do any of you sell directly, like in front of people or on the phone? Okay. At some point in your web career, you're probably going to have to. And once you get pullback from somebody that you're talking to on the phone, whatever, if they just, I don't know if I'm a fit. I totally understand that. I'm not for everybody. I don't do business with everybody I talk to. But tell me what caused you to take this meeting today. That's a function you want to be able to do on your website, because now what's going to happen? Anybody? What's the answer to that question going to be? Anybody? Why did you take this meeting today? They're going to tell me why they took the meeting. They're going to tell me what, either they were curious and wanted to see a train wreck, or which sometimes happens, rarely, but it does. Or they're going to tell me, I'm tired of feeling like this. You know, I thought maybe you could help me with this. I didn't really have any confidence in that. I was in a meeting like this a few months ago. I didn't really think you could, but I thought maybe, you know, I can lose an hour if I can solve this problem. Okay, now you better have already known the answer to that question. And that's how it needs to be on your website. You need to know your customer so well that you can mentally sit them in front of you, ask them that question, and you're going to know the answer. You're going to know those pain points. Just like I told you about the SEO and how people are tired of getting ripped off by SEO people. That's a common feeling. So I'm going to express that, right? So since I understand that the narrower my sales funnel point is, since the customer's moving down the sales funnel, if they've moved down to step 4, am I going to be more specific or less specific in my information? What's that? More specific. Why? Because they've already gone so far with me. Now, a really, really common mistake that people make on their websites is at this point in the sales process, they will send people back to the homepage. That's bad. Another bad thing to do is to send them to a general contact us page that just says name, add email address, fill out this form. It says your text here. You can go spend just a little bit of money and get a hyper-specific form that you can have them fill out. Take them to a different page and say, fill out this form, and then even have a pop-up prompt that goes, hey, we're available right now. You can call us right now. Would you like someone to call you? Why? Why am I doing that? Why am I going to that effort?
You don't want them to escape.
To
complete the sale.
No. Where do I not want to lose them to?
To someone else.
Why is that so valuable at that point?
Because you've already narrowed down, become more
They're
and more
your
specific.
customer.
If you said, I want water, and I met you at the door, I took your hand, I said, I know where water is. I walked you all the way to this bottle of water that I have not drank yet. And then, now let's say there's a monetary value in that for me, that I make my living by this. The equivalent of what we do is to then go, all right, I took you all the way to here. I haven't showed you where the water is yet. I've taken you all the way to this point. You want water. I've done all the work to take you here. And then I go, I hope you find it. I really do. That's what most websites are doing. Because we're sending them to a general contact form that feels specific, more specific. I'm right. I'm ready. Contact, name, email. Well, how does that feel? That feels like, all right, I've done my work. You need to do the work now. I hope you find what you need. I hope you contact me. Rather than, if I've taken you all the way down, like on my site, if you are going on my site and you're looking at copywriting or blogging, and I take you all the way down, are you interested in blogging? Yes. I want to take you to that form that says, what kind of blogging are you looking for? What's your blogging experience been in the past? Have you done it before? Have you bought blogging services before? If people have bought or have not bought your type of service or product before, that's a huge information piece that you need to have, because that'll tell you if you're walking into a buzzsaw. Again, with SEO, if I know somebody has bought SEO services before, the mere fact that they're shopping with me means they had a bad experience. So I need to know that, because that's going to tell me I need to be really on my P's and Q's in here, which means pints and quarts, by the way. Did you know that? It doesn't mean P's and Q's in the American alphabet. It's an English expression. Yeah. My literal brain has a hard time with concepts like that, and all my life I've been saying P's and Q's, and I don't know what it means, and it bothers me. So I got to know that.
So, by the way, you talked about the funnel process and hot water
Mhm.
But you also see a lot of websites, great information, but when you click on the contact page, it's really just name and email address without even a phone number. And I can see why some smaller company would do that. They just simply don't have the staffing to answer all the calls. So how
Well, why are you going to have a business?
well, for a startup company, for example, it's a true reality, right? You're gonna hire people to be on the call for 14,
No,
16
if you're
hours.
driving, no, I'm not talking about 24 hours a day.
No, not 24, but
Okay.
pretty long.
Well, whatever. I'm not saying have a phone number available for 24 hours a day or even 16 hours. I'm not saying have a phone number available for times that you don't have staff available. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can have a pop up for times that it is available.
So in other words, you think it's critical to have the phone number, despite the fact that a lot of websites that I've seen personally just don't have phone number. You almost have to send an email to the black hole and hope somebody answers the question.
But see, you're expressing exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. So that can't be good, right?
Yeah, but if you.
I don't think there's a but there. No offense, but there's no but there.
So
If it's bad, it's bad.
here's the solution. Here's my question for
Okay.
the solution.
Okay.
I ask you for guidance is if you are in a very labor intensive industry, you
Mhm.
know people are gonna ask you something that can be easily found on the website. Just, it's not gonna directly translate into a sale. So how do you balance that? Because you said earlier, you don't really want to talk to all the people. You want to talk to fewer people with very specific info, and that's why we have website. But
Mhm.
some people just feel a lot more comfortable to get on the phone with you,
Mhm.
and you're gonna spend a lot of time with them as opposed to building your business. So how do you balance that?
You have to
Especially
do.
small business, right? You just don't have people to be on the phone to answer.
Well,
questions.
I mean, it really depends. I mean, that gets into a whole different. I'll spend like little bit of time on this because we're gonna have to break in a second. But we will get back to this in the execution side because we're gonna get into some page building. But I will say that you need to have a really strong understanding of your market and who they are. And generally, people that are going to burn a lot of your time on the phone are not good buyers for anybody. So you have to find a way to shed those. That's just the reality. But you don't shed them by having a weaker form that you show to everybody. You don't show a weaker, worse experience to everybody to get rid of a few. They'd never do that. Okay? So that's reverse extrapolation. You're getting more general at a specific point, right? So understand who you are and everything and go like, again, if I'm talking about investment and higher price and things like that, most of the people that are going to burn a lot of my time are not going to be in there. They're going to bail. Because most people that burn time don't value your time. They don't value their own time. What they value is almost conflict. They enjoy the haggling process. So if I'm already talking about investment and more money, they're out. They're not talking about that, right? I'm talking about values that I express that are different than their values. So that's a good way to do it. Yes.
On that subject, what do you think about the sites that have a contact page that asks you for information?
Mhm.
And, tell us a little bit about you so that when we contact you, we can be of the best service. I'm thinking of an event website company. All they do is event websites.
They
And-
build event planning websites.
And at Buzzable, I think it is. And so I just wanted to sample their products.
Mhm.
And they asked me this information, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a bummer. I can't see what I need to see, but I wanted to know enough to tell them this is the name of my company, number of employees, whatever else they asked. Sent it in, and then someone did finally get back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, it was a plus or minus. I was bummed out that I couldn't get my answer right away, but at the same time, they did get back with me and they did know a little bit more about me. So what do you think about those kinds of contact pages where, you're having to give them a little bit of information? Do they do that so that they can weed out the people who really they know they're not going to be customers?
I mean, it's hard to say. I can't really speak to what they do, but I know for me, I'm going to want to ask for information, and then I'm going to make a promise behind it. Give us this information. Somebody's going to be back with you very quickly because it's about the customer experience at that point. And then I want to interview them on the exit after the service or product is done. I'm going to say, "What was your experience like?" And if they speak what you just spoke, that's a red flag to me. I'm going to go back to my team and go, number one, we had somebody that was ready to buy, and they couldn't get everything they wanted to get. So we're going to try to dig into that and find out what you wanted to get and see if we can do it. If we can, we're going to get as close as we can. But there's a second piece to this that you said somebody finally got back to you. It sounds like there was a gap Okay, so we need to close that gap. That goes back to your question. I'm going to have a detailed form. It gives me good information about the people. Then I'm going to contact them. That's my team's responsibility. And if you can't do that, you're probably going to fail because if you're getting too many people calling you that you have not built the team to execute on, that's a problem. You're always going to have time burners. You just have to train your team how to get rid of those. So let's get through this real fast. Since I understand more specific and lower in the funnel, I will build a succession of pages that get more specific. Then I will ask for the sale. You would not believe how many websites and people don't ask for the sale. We get back to the same thing, the fear of rejection. You do all that work, then you don't want to ask for the sale because I'm afraid I'll get rejected. 96 out of 100 people are going to reject you. You want rejection. Rejection is good. Rejection tells you a story. It tells you you're doing your job right, okay? You're selling. These are ideas you're selling on your website. This is what's different than in person. You're selling the idea of filling out a contact form. You're selling the idea of picking up the phone and calling. You're selling the idea of answering a poll question or a series of poll questions. You're selling the idea of tell us why you didn't buy. This is a big one. If you can have a pop-up if somebody's leaving your website, hey, listen, we like to help our customers. We like to give the best product possible to our customers. Will you take one quick second, tell me why you didn't buy? And the best way to do it is to have it where they can just multiple choice click. Give them 5 choices and let them answer one of those questions. Even then, a lot of times they won't do it. Then actual purchase. This is much more rare on your website, especially for small and mid-sized businesses, because even if we're transactional, because we're smaller, it's harder to fulfill directly online, unless it's a commoditized product that we're producing a bunch of. If I'm selling those trash cans locally, for instance, you want 20 trash cans? Great, I'll give you 20 trash cans. That's great. But if I'm selling granite countertops, we need to have a conversation before you buy. You ain't buying a whole kitchen full of granite countertops on a website without any conversation. Not with my company, because that's going to be a nightmare for execution, okay? Do you fear it? Great time to have Halloween about fear. This is how people feel about rejection. I found out my sister doesn't like to talk on the phone. I've known her for 34 years, and I just found this out. I kept trying to call her. She goes, look, I just don't like talking on the phone. I'm like, but it's me. I know I just don't like talking on the phone. I'm like, how does that make me feel? It's all about me. Offline or online truths. The majority of what we're talking about is true online or offline. Sales process is a sales process, offline or online, okay? Most of these principles we talk about are the same, offline or online. We kind of already covered this, but I'm going to run through it really quickly. The exposure of your core ideas. You need to understand what your core ideas are. The reason I call it core ideas now instead of core value proposition is because a lot of these ideas are what was your name, ma'am? Alicia. What Alicia was talking about a minute ago, she was talking about the character, what they build on. We talked about Chipotle and how their brand promise is all about natural, and they're willing to sacrifice possibly losing some customers to fulfill that brand promise. That's a brave thing to do, man. And most of us have not had to make that choice to turn down tens of millions of dollars worth of business to keep a brand promise. The day you do, if you're doing a good job, you're going to face that choice one day. So I hope all of us make the right choice. You need to have 3 to 5 core ideas in your business. Locally owned, I live here, I give here, that's a big one. Most of us are going to be local. Build that into your website copy. Lots of local businesses. I'll bet you if we polled 100 local businesses today, right now while we're sitting in here, 50 of them might have emphasize their local and tell their local story. You need to tell your local story. You from Round Rock? Did you move here? Are you from Austin? Did you move out to Round Rock when you had kids? Then you built a business because you wanted a second income, or you had always dreamed about making bric-a-brac and selling it? What is your story? Tell it. Tell that story. Author is huge. People buy into your persona, and they'll buy your book even if it stinks, if they buy you. Stephen King's a great example. Every one of his books have not been great, but they sold a bunch. When a purchase happens, this is another important concept. Your buyer is essentially fellowshipping with at least one of your core ideas. So you need to understand that and then reverse engineer that into copy, okay? I am buying this product from you. I am buying your consultancy because my school district stinks. I happen to know a school superintendent, and when he came in, it stunk. And so I resonate with that. It's an interesting thing. So I'm buying this idea, but I'm living with it. I've made the choice to pull hard-earned money out of my pocket and give it to you. So I have to feel good about that, right? Because that's me. Your money is a representation of your time, which is direct representation of who you are. How you're spending your time today is part of your character, right? Okay. They are fellowshipping with one or more of your core ideas. They can't be, we sell stuff, right? We talked about that earlier. Your core idea is not that you sell consulting. That's not your core idea. Your core idea is that you make people's lives better by executing on these principles. I'm spitballing, obviously. But instead, huh? It's good spitball? This is a great framework to use. We talked about frameworks and definitions in the front. This is a great framework for copy. I believe in A. Therefore, I only do B. I don't do C. Yeah. And we love giving this experience to our customers. I ask people all the time, what do you love to see happen? Because that tells me something about the person. I'll tell you a fascinating thing about people. I have a networking group that I run. And I ask this, I've been running this experiment for about 4 years now. Nobody knows that I'm running it except me. But I ask, stand up, you say who you are, what do you do, and one thing you love about today. Within 2 people, they start saying like. They will not keep saying love. I ask the same question for 5 years, happens every time. It has never gotten all the way around the room, even if we only have 5 people. They will not say love. Interesting. What do you love to see happen with your customers? Talk about that. Reverse engineer that into copy, okay? Because what you love to see happen really is one of your core ideas. It really is. That really is kind of what you are. Here's another great framework. We provide the best X service based on a unique proprietary process. Makes your life better by doing Y for you. This is, you've got to have a lot of guts to put that on paper or on a website. We have the best X. What do you do that's the best? If you're not doing anything that's the best, maybe you should do something else. If you don't solve a big problem, why are you solving the problem you solve? Is it just because you fell into it or you thought it was a good idea? I was on the board of a startup that quit up because the problem they solved didn't really exist. The 5 of them got together. The first thing I said was, I don't know that this is really a problem. They're like, no, you don't understand. It'll be ABC. It'll be awesome. It'll do this and this and this. I said, I understand that. There's 12 other people who do that. You do it a little bit different, but is it enough to make people buy something? Are you solving a big problem? I live here, I give here. We talked about that already. People don't buy things, they buy states. State of being stress-free, happy, fulfilled, etc. Figure out your states. When you figure out your state that you actually sell, you're back at your core ideas. We provide these states. Our customers are tired of feeling the opposite of these states. They come to us and they get this state. Your product or service supplies some state, and that's what your customer buys. I love it when I think about the thing that I said and it turns out to be the next slide. You think I wrote it. We give you this X state and that equals your core idea. Your marketing then exposes that idea, which, oh, he's gone. It's going to give him some props. He's gone. Your marketing then exposes that or those ideas to prospects, in this case on your website. Just take the customer from one idea to another, becoming more specific as you go. We talk about this a little bit, but think of that like a stone path, and you're going from stone to stone. You're taking them from idea to idea, and you're getting to the point that they need to get the state. Another way to do this is start at the state and work backwards. They're going to feel stress-free. Why? Because we installed granite countertops. What kind of granite countertops? Aren't there some bad ones? Are there some worse ones or better ones? Yeah, actually, and we use these kinds. This is the only way we do it. Aren't there some bad stories out there of people who install granite countertops in either a way that was not ethical or they use bad materials? Yes, we only use these materials and these processes and these vetted professional installers. Oh, really? I can't really trust you guys. I don't know how long you've been in business. Well, we've been in business this long. This is the name of our company, the address that we're at. We're over here on this side of town. We on this side of town because of ABC. We're local. I live here. I give here. And now you're back at your Y point of your funnel. You just reverse extrapolated your path to the state that they got. Okay? Blogging framework. 5 tips about core idea number 1. 5 problems that core idea number 2 fixes. 5 fears that core idea number 3 protects you from. 5 things going on in the world about core idea number 1. We talked a little bit about this in her case. 5 ways this industry news event affects core idea number 2. These are just general things. 5, you use odd numbers instead of even because your brain processes odd numbers better. I believe, I've never seen this validated, but I personally believe that it's because odd numbers have beginning, middles, and ends. Even numbers don't. But for some reason, it's true. 5, 7, 3, okay? One powerful tip that'll save you X. That's a really strong blog title. Another thing you can do if you have 6, I've seen some copywriters do this, is you go, if you have 6 tips and you have to have 6, you go 5 tips on this, and then you start the copy. Okay, it was 6, but I like 5 better. And then you just start. People don't care. They don't. So what you're doing here is you're giving yourself, number 1, social media fodder out the wazoo, okay? You've got so many social media posts just inside because each one of these, one tip can be a social media post. Now you can have one blog that'll give you 50 social media posts. One service I sell is I'll sit down in a room with you for $100 for an hour and I'll give you 100 blog posts and social media posts. That's just one of the things I can do. I found out that not everybody can do that. That kind of surprised me because I can do it. Each one of us has those kind of gifts. You can do things that other people can't do. Each one of us has strengths, right? That's what all this is about. The customer has to perceive the path to purchase. Does your website have one? I have a problem. I searched Google. Your site came up. This is the path. First thing I read from that click that I clicked from should tell me about the thing I searched on. And the same page should have my next step. Okay, that's in a website page way, the way you build a path. I search on granite countertops. I shouldn't go to a general page about remodeling. That is less specific, right? I should go to granite countertops, and then there should be a next step there. Your entire website must obey that process. If you don't know what call to action buttons are, this is what call to action buttons are, okay? These, you need to have pages that get them to do these things. Not these necessarily, but in general. Call us, fill out this form, start the process of getting your new kitchen today. That's a really good example of a very specific step, specific to what you searched for. I want a new kitchen, granite countertop page. Let's get you started on your new kitchen today. Because that's what I want. I want a new kitchen. I don't really want granite. I want a new kitchen. Cannot escape this rule. The bigger the problem you solve, the easier your sales process will be. The reverse of that is true. The smaller your problem that you solve is, the harder and longer your sales process is going to be because everybody else is doing it. Like selling corn. Think about selling cans of corn. Would you start a business today selling cans of corn? The number one reason you're not going to is there's a lot of people who do it really, really, really well. And nobody perceives that as a problem. I don't have trouble buying corn right now. Today I do because people are idiots on the road. I might die buying corn. Inescapable rule number 2. The closer this goes to my corn metaphor. The closer your solution is to a commodity, the harder your sales process is going to be. If there are a lot of people in your market, your sales process is more difficult. Unless it's a hot commodity like real estate in Austin. If you're a real estate agent, you can fall out of bed and sell some houses. You'll sell 5, 10 houses a year just because you are breathing. It's just the reality. We're in a hot market. But everything's not like that. Be as unique as possible. Solve big problems. Don't be afraid to abandon a bad idea. Every successful person that you know has abandoned a bad idea at some point. Do not get married to the idea. Last week, in my 5 steps of the sale presentation, I've got a picture of this couple with a baby. They're throwing a baby in the air. I don't know if they don't like the baby, and that's why they're throwing it in the air, but they're throwing a baby in the air. The point of the slide is, don't cause your thing that you sell, your product or your service, to be your baby. It's not your baby. It's the customer's baby. Let the customer adopt that baby because that motivates them. That's what their motivation is to come. My baby in this case, in my current metaphor, is my kitchen. I want a new kitchen. That's the baby. I care about that baby because it's about me, right? It's about my life, my kids, my pets, my home. My future is all wrapped around this kitchen. All these emotions, all those things I just said to you. Any of you that had kids, when I say kids, that probably tick something in your mind because it's an emotional connection. Again, emotional state, right? That people don't buy things, they buy states. So let that be my baby and sell. Wasn't going to sound good. Sell that baby. Not saying you should sell babies. Don't sell babies. But you do want the customer to be the one enjoying that experience. Don't get offended if the customer doesn't like it. Henry Ford famously became very offended when the Model T began to drop in sales because GM came out with cars that had any color but black. Henry Ford said you can have a Model T in any color as long as it's black. And he would not sell any other color. Well, GM came out with just different colored cars and started outselling him and almost put him under. And he was offended. I mean, he was so offended that he almost quit. He had a board run the business. And that's just famously, we all do it. Well, I don't really like your business. Well, that's me. That's if it's my baby, though, right? But if it's a customer's baby, I'm going, well, what kind of baby do you want? I'll get you that kind of baby. All right. This probably went longer than we were planning for the break. And I don't know what you guys need as far as the end of the day and rain. Why don't we break real fast? And then if you want to spend some time, I'll break open some web pages on the back end of WordPress and we'll take a look at a few things, okay? So let's break real fast and y'all tell me what we do next.
Let's do no more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
Are your slides available?
Yeah. I'm going to put a resource page up, and it'll have this slide deck. This is also being recorded.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so it'll have the recordings. Yes. Yeah, I didn't zoom in on it. I was just kidding.
Tired, Kyle. I'm listening as fast as I can. Wearing me down.
Well, I looked at the video from last week, and I was like, that was pretty fast. Let me slow down a little bit. So I'm going slower this week.
Well, yeah, but it's still.
All right. Well, it's like this. It's like if you can, let's say you could drink a half a gallon an hour. If I'm pouring at 5,000 gallons an hour, you can't drink that much, right? Well, what if you like really grow your drinkability? You can drink 5 gallons an hour. So you've 10 times your drinking, but it's still not fast enough.
I keep thinking about, wait, because I'm trying to catch it. I want to go back and look at this and look at my notes and do that because, wait, that's tough. Wait, that's big. You know, where I would put you on pause.
Right.
Wait, let me think about it. Because I've learned recently that's how I process it. I'm an order kind of guy, right? And I've got to order it and thinking, because that's important. Because I got the principles. And what you just said, and I wrote it down, I think I wrote it down. You don't, like in my wife's case, she has a dress shop. Right? And to some extent, it's hard. You look at it, you see that. And the thing I told her before, I said, it's a validation of you. You sell it, she did over $500,000 sales. Wow. First year. Wow. And she goes, well, that's what I said. I mean, how much I got to pay in tax? Where's my money? I don't have any money out here. It's like crap. But that's a couple $100,000 a foot. So it's good numbers. It should be bigger. This could be bigger. But nonetheless, she understands what people want and what she said. It's still her baby to an extent. Well, I'm just going to say, because there's other outside influences that go on. I don't want to build the city and scream on myself. But then she realizes, well, what else am I going to do? Because this is what I always want to do. So what you're balancing is, this is you, this expression, and how you then in fellowship with the people who buy your stuff, love your stuff, and they look and they put stuff on it. They never look beautiful. And she understands the concept. It's not a beautiful dress. You look beautiful with it. So it's your baby that you want people to see.
Yeah, and the line I think there's two things. One is your baby is like creating this business because I love certain people. That's why I talk about core ideas. Because then the servicing they buy is not important. So when the dress is on a style, she might be starting to sell that kind of dress with a style. She can't adapt to the market fast enough. But if her baby is the fact that she serves people and gives them something that makes them feel beautiful, then
that really is what it is.
Right. But she gets attached to that dress.
She didn't care about this.
But I'm just using
And that's really good because that's what I'm thinking. I couldn't verbalize what you said.
Right.
Yeah, this is my operation, and it changes all the time.
That's like Diane, you know, she developed that wrap dress, and that has been her signature thing through all of her market. It's been a wrap dress that fits every woman's body, you know, and that's what she still sells.
Yeah, some things are like that. They put it across generations and cultures and start, you know, fashion changes and whatever else. Some things are like that. Other things aren't. Other things are, well, there's big brands you know now that you have no idea where they started from.
Oh, that's like what you were saying, like.
Zero.
Yeah, well, that's like what you said.
That's totally
Yeah.
where they were. They're exactly right. I didn't take it away from them, they took it away from my, and the other one says, you guys make copies. They don't make copies.
They haven't been, copies are not been doing their business for a while.
Yeah. Because the fact that they manage that kind of thing, it's totally out there by themselves. I mean, you wouldn't even, they were probably a company, but now they're managing.
There's businesses that go under all the time because people say, no, this is valuable. It's valuable because it has to be valuable for me.
It's because it's about them.
That's it. That's it. Because those businesses go under because of the management problem.
But if it's about serving people, then you can do that.
That.
This is, from a personal standpoint, I don't want to change. I don't want to change. I'm involved in a change today, but if I'm anchored, then the change is the buzz. This doesn't change. I'm doing this. This stuff changes because that's what I do. Oh crap, I understand that. And I'm like, put me on pause. Wait. It's not, I don't want to forget that. It's too important. Yes, it's too important.
I appreciate it.
Actually, I've been promoting you.
I appreciate that.
I never did send you a text, but I did connect with you.
Yeah, I never did send you the request.
I wasn't gonna say that because you already did.
Yeah.
But I find this, for a guy that's in management, marketing is connected to it, but it's not. Yeah, but I was not a normal guy. When I was managing real estate, I was also leasing marketing, and that's two different things. And the same person. Physically, there was a couple of times where I would be sitting on the lease office, and I had to come back to the management. You guys talking to me. This man is here, and not here. No.
And you know what? I had a golden retriever for 14 years.
He smokes cigarettes.
And then, of course, I was very excited to lose him, but then
Shifting
I
gears.
waited until
Tell me what it was
he's not there anymore, so I bought that.
So.
They shat and then you rubbed his belly and his chin against the carpet. I'm gonna do that when he's around.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna grab
I have a point to make.
or,
No, when you start.
Okay, great.
Chat box.
Chat. Oh, yeah, okay. Cool.
I'll get it now. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I'll
Only been a couple days.
Got plenty. I don't want to raise my teeth on the video. Is everybody okay for us to start? All right. I'll put my my phone number up here so you can text me. And text me your email, and I will make sure that when I have the resource page finished, I'll send it to you. What I'm going to put on the resource page is a lot of stuff we talked about. Any links or anything that I find relevant, I'll put them on there, and then I'll have this slide deck as well, and as well as the videos that came out of it. Yes.
Kyle, with a nonprofit, I have two constituencies. I have people that I want to donate to my cause so that I can help other people who need the help.
Okay.
So I have two personas. How do I build my website and address both of them?
In general, that really is like a hyper-specific consultancy type thing, because I need to dig into who they are and what they talk about and think and all that good stuff. But I can tell you in general, start at the end result that you want them to do and work backwards. You want one to donate. You want the other one to do what?
To know that the services are available and ask for them.
Oh, okay, so you've got the people you're serving.
Yes,
Okay, so you're essentially a conduit between givers and receivers.
yes.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if you're serving underprivileged people, then sometimes the issue you have is availability of internet resources, for instance. In that case, you got to tactically go a little bit different because if they don't have internet availability or they don't, my cousin is, we're both very